For years, the Federal Transit Administration has had its eyes on investing in Massachusetts' transit system.
Now, with the recent passing of an $11 billion infrastructure bill, the Massachusetts House of Representatives is searching for solutions to its ongoing public transportation predicament.
However, despite recent legislation, ongoing problems persist in the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, including train damage from severe weather, prolonged delays, and extended running times.
In fact, recent closures of the Orange Line as well as multiple slow zones arising has led 70% of riders to believe trains are slower than ever, according to a recent poll from Boston.com.
Several safety incidents, including the derailing of a Green Line train and battery malfunctions on the Orange Line, have generated a growing concern about the current state of the MBTA.
And recently, the resignation of MBTA General Manager Steve Polstak has led many to question the future of this transportation system.
Will a new general manager work to build a safer and more efficient transportation system? What are the projected solutions? How will legislation address these? And is there any hope for safety improvements?
All this and much more right now on That Point. Good evening, and welcome to a two-part special of On That Point. I'm Sam Soman.
And I'm Akua Devall. Tonight, we will take a closer look at the problems and inefficiencies of the MBTA. Over 500,000 travelers use the MBTA every day. Our correspondent, Kevin Boulandier, went onto the streets of Boston asking T passengers about their experiences with the MBTA.
Hey guys, I went out to several MBTA stations, including Blandford Street and Government Center, to speak to some MBTA riders about any safety concerns they may have and what improvements they would like to see. Here's what they told me.
I'd say compared to other transit systems I've used around the world, I'd say the T is pretty clean. So it's kind of nice.
It's pretty clean. I like how clean it is, especially compared to New York.
It's not very clean, but it's not very dirty also. It's just at the level that I can bear with.
I'd say so. It seems cleaner, maybe.
I think the strength is that sometimes I don't have to pay the fare. And the weakness is that, it really delays a lot.
The red line is really fast, especially if you're going across town, and it's nice that you don't have to fight with traffic or anything. It's, underground, so it's pretty convenient.
It's sometimes reliable because lots of times it will say it's on time and it won't be there, or sometimes they'll drive past and go express, and so me and a lot of my friends sometimes miss our spot.
For me, it's in everywhere that I want to go. Maybe because I like to eat and shop, so it goes to the places where all of those places are. So
it seems like it's been good so far, pretty reliable.
Yeah.
At least in my experience so far, it's not
I
right.
think it's kind of expensive. If they can lower the fare a little, I think people will be more actively paying the fare.
I think it's a great price for me because I have a car and I pay a car note and insurance, and I feel like paying like $270 or to get like a membership or a card to go around the city. I feel like that's great for me.
It's a little too expensive because if I'm only going a couple of stops, $2.40 for me is a little bit.
Yeah, you think we should go lower?
I think I take the bus almost more because the bus is less expensive and it's almost faster.
I think going down would be good. I pay for the Link Pass, which is unlimited rides, so I think I definitely save money with that, which is a good deal, but I'd love for prices to go down.
I mean, that's on par with what New York is, so I'd say it's on the pricier side.
How would you like to see it go down?
I mean, even just enough to be comparable to the bus system would probably make me nice. So.
Price dropping and more consistency of a schedule.
During rush hour, it is prone to being delayed and late, and they're also really, really crowded, especially in the mornings.
It being sometimes overcrowded, yeah.
Ideally, more trains running, more frequently, every few minutes.
I'd say no safety concerns. None.
Sometimes when the train starts, if you don't have something to grasp on, you'll easily fall on the ground.
Nope, it's been good so far.
No, I haven't. I haven't seen anything that would make me be alarmed about, the public transportation system. I haven't.
Putting a fence between people and the rail, because I'm just a little concerned about people getting crushed by the train.
I lived in China for a while and took trains there. The trains in China were definitely a little bit nicer. Still crowded, but I think they're pretty comparable.
And as you can see, guys, many MBTA riders told me the same thing. The price is too high. And they hope that with the new governor next year in office, some improvements can come for the MBTA. Reporting live outside Blanford Street, Kevin Boulandier, BUTV 10.
Thank you, Kevin. Akua previously sat down with former manager of operating budget and current executive director of the MBTA Advisory Board, Brian Kane. Now, over to you, Akua.
Welcome to the show, Brian. Thank you so much for being here. So what would you say are the main challenges that the MBTA faces in serving Boston residents?
Well, thanks for having me. The main challenges the T faces are several. First of all, there's been a massive brain drain at the MBTA. There are currently 1,000 open positions almost. So if you're looking for a job, I highly recommend you look at the T. And this is not just jobs operating or maintaining vehicles, which are great jobs, but professional jobs as well. So hiring, and then they have a massive operating budget deficit that they're facing in fiscal year 2024, which is expected to be about $200 million deficit out of a $2 billion operating budget. So they got to find 10%. And then I guess the third biggest challenge is morale. It's a tough place to work. I worked there for 8 years. It's tough to see your employer kind of kicked around in the media every day. But then again, the people that you'll be working with, that I worked with, were some of the best people. And so, it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity.
The MBTA shut down the Orange Line in August due to ongoing safety issues. Since reopening, there are more concerns from citizens that the trains are slower and delayed more than usual. Can a safe T also be a convenient T?
So the MBTA that we have today is really a legacy of what we had in the 1980s. And a lot of the vehicles, especially on the Orange Line, are from the 1980s. There's some Red Line trains out there from 1969. And if you go back then, 30, 40 years ago, yes, the system worked really, really well. It was safe, it was reliable, it was punctual, and it was really second to none in the country. This was at a time when the New York City MTA, folks have seen the old movies where graffiti was everywhere, and you had the guardian angels riding to protect people. The T never had those issues in terms of crime and in terms of reliability once upon a time. So yes, we can get better. We have to get better. We need to do a generation's worth of maintenance and upgrades in a very short period of time. And the lesson to be learned here is to not skimp on day-to-day ongoing maintenance, but to fix things as you go. And that's never been the ethos of state government or certainly of the MBTA, and that has to change.
So the MBTA is over $7.5 billion in debt, and you just approved a $2.5 billion operating budget. How does the MBTA plan to pay back these debts?
So the debt is paid by the operating budget. So it's about $600 million a year comes out of the operating budget to support the debt. The debt is considerable. About 1.3 billion of it was related to projects related to the Big Dig, which was a massive transportation project that took place here 20 years ago. And the rest is really for ongoing projects, buying new commuter rail trains, buying new Green Line trains, building new stations. It's all very expensive. And the T doesn't get money from the state to do its capital work. So the only way that it can fund this stuff is to borrow. They do get some money from the federal government, a good deal, which is great. And there's more coming, we're told. But the answer is there is no plan to pay back the debt. The plan is actually to continue borrowing $600 million every year forever and paying it back out of the operating budget every year forever. So basically, Every time you tap your Charlie card on the Green Line or on any other MBTA service, think of it as not really paying for your ride, but paying for projects that were built 30 years ago, because that's what the debt does.
Interesting.
The debt we're paying today is for projects built in the late 90s when most of you probably weren't born.
So will that change anything about day-to-day operations?
It takes money away from day-to-day operations that could be used to operate a better system, unfortunately.
Mayor Wu ran with a Free the T initiative. Is this actually possible? And how much control does the administration have over MBTA fares?
So the city of Boston has minimal authority over setting T fares or T policy. There's a 7-member board of directors currently, 6 of which are appointed by the governor and 1 of which is appointed by my organization, the MBTA Advisory Board, of which Boston is a member. So it has a very indirect role. Free fares is a wonderful aspiration, and I think certainly something we should be aiming towards, but it's not realistic in the very short term. It could be realistic in the long term, but that's going to take a wholesale change in our policy at a statewide level. And, you know, Mayor Wu is working with the Boston legislative delegation, and I encourage her to keep going. And when I talk to her, I tell her she's got our full support, but that's going to take a lot of work and probably a longer time.
Have you been able to meet with her a lot since she's been in office?
I've spoken with her, but I haven't met with her directly. I talked to a gentleman named Yasha Franklin Hodge a lot, who is her chief of streets, and he and I have a good rapport and try to make sure that the largest city in the region's needs are certainly met and represented.
In a dream world where there's no budget and you have full control, how would you run the T?
A focus on day-to-day service. The goal has to be to have one perfect rush hour. And what I mean by that is have one rush hour where nothing is delayed because of mechanical failures or anything that should be within the T's control. You're always going to get medical emergencies, police actions, things like that are beyond your control. But if it's within your control, have one perfect rush hour. Dispatch every bus at exactly the interval it says on the schedule. Dispatch every Green Line train the same way. Run every red, orange, blue line and commuter rail as the schedule calls for. And they've never been able to do that. There's never been a perfect rush hour. And that would be my goal. And then the goal is to replicate that and then get the T into a place where you do that again and again and again and again and again. And the reason I say this is because lots of folks would say that their ideal T is one that would be expanded rapidly or massively. But that's all based on running good service every day, which they don't do. So I think they should run a good service, run the schedule they promise perfectly, well, for several months consistently before anything else changes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Embroiled in controversies, the MBTA has grown larger in the public eye. The people of Boston take issue with unaffordable fare costs and late trains.
Through talking with Executive Director of the MBTA Advisory Board, we found that the funds needed to make the improvements that Bostonians so desperately want are available and simply need to be implemented.
Thank you for watching part 1 of our 2-part public transportation special. Tune in next time as we take a look at public transportation across America. I'm Sam Soman.
And I'm Akua Devall. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.